you have to get over to Patreon to support To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. And believe me, Annie and I have been searching for clues and reasons to text one another for the Vanderpump Rules scandal ever since it broke. So this is our first conversation about the scandal. Now, if you aren't a Vanderpump Rules fan, that means Tom Scandival cheating on his longtime girlfriend of 10 years, Ariana Madix, on this Bravo reality TV show called Vanderpump Rules, which is a spinoff of the Beverly Hills Real Housewives franchise. And we talk about cheating scandals, how reality TV affects us. We even dog Nick Lachey a little bit and manage to bring up some red flags. So head over to patreon.com/Men I've Tolerated Pod. It's going to be in the show notes, and make sure that you're supporting us over there. We love all of our Patreon members, and I want to give them a huge shout out for being there to support the show and help us stay in production. Love you all. Have a great time with this teaser, and thanks to Annie for being a great Patreon guest. Well, I didn't know how to have bonus content for misogyny.
I mean, I would argue that misogyny builds in plenty of bonus content on its own. Misogyny is the gift that keeps on giving.
Well, Annie, while that's true, I don't know if anyone wants to pay for more misogyny. So then I was like, what if people just got a fun episode that's just check-ins with our guests and about their actual lives and not the patriarchy?
That's fair enough. I mean, I would argue that people are willing to pay bonus for misogyny, given the fact that Andrew Tate was a successful businessman for a long time. So I think there is a market there, but I would hope that that's not exactly what you're peddling. And in the meantime, I'm happy to help on your whatever we're about to do.
Joe Rogan is still at large in Texas or wherever he is.
Texas is a safe bet. I don't know, but that
so my idea was to have you on for the Patreon episode months ago so we could talk about the fact that we actually met, and then I just stopped doing things in the winter because depression hit.
Oh girl. Relatable. Yeah. I keep being like, is it gonna get warm out so I can start enjoying life again? Could that happen? Could I start feeling joy again? Because that can only happen when there is sunshine for more than a 15-minute span.
It's 68 degrees out today, but it's storming. So all of the windows are open, but I can't be outside.
Yeah. We're in the midst of Midwest springtime, which is you either get rainy, slushy, half snow, half rain, or you get just days of total darkness. And then periodically you get one where it's like, oh, is it spring? And you're like, oh, it is. And then you go right back to the darkness and or sludge. Those are your two modes.
And I also just go back to the darkness or the sludge where it's like, well, I guess I'm a sludge person now.
In so many ways.
In so many ways. In so many ways. I was telling Stephanie, I was like, there are still things in my home that have not recovered from my holiday depression. And it's March. It's the end of March.
Yeah. There's my partner and I moved into our current abode in August. And in our back room, there's a pile of boxes that were never unpacked. And at this point, we should probably just throw away because clearly it's not stuff that we're using a lot because we haven't touched it. And the cat likes to shred cardboard. So on top of it, the boxes are being destroyed and there's little cardboard pieces everywhere. And so I just try to not go in that room,
Yeah.
That's good coping.
Yeah. Why? I've just noticed in this corner, you can see where my period underwear is drying.
Beautiful. It adds to the ambiance.
Menstruation is valid. We talk about menstruation.
I had a, like, legitimate business Zoom call the other day, and I couldn't figure out how to set up my camera because if I panned this way, I had paused the screen on I was watching Love Island, so it's just, like, a bunch of people in bikinis screaming at each other, and then if I turned this way, it's a huge painting of a mostly naked person I did, so I was like, "There's no good place for me to direct this. I just need to
There's
get very close and fill the frame with my face, I guess."
titties left and right. Titties, titties, titties at Annie's house.
True. Welcome to Titties, Titties, Titties.
Titties, titties, titties with Annie.
That should be my podcast.
Honestly, if it's a butt, it's Annie.
I don't know what the podcast would be though, just me being like, "Yep, I still love them. I think they're cool.
I think they're
Butts
cool.
are great, boobs are great, squishy tummy."
I think somehow we just relate it back to Love Island. Just titties, titties, titties with Annie, and all of the other reality shows where they're just in bikinis, like perfect match.
That's true. Honestly, I bet that you could make like a highbrow intellectual podcast going into like all the ways that titties secretly rule society or secretly destroy it.
Right.
You could have people come on and argue for or against the power of titties. Yeah.
Exactly. As you know, we're rewatching One Tree Hill, and there's a certain time frame, and it's season 3. Season 3 is when you realize that the women are in fact being harassed because they're naked all the time. It's like, why is Brooke naked?
Yeah, I was just listening to, I don't remember, one of the pop culture sources that screams into my ears was talking about all of the gross stuff that was happening on allegedly on the set of Euphoria, which I had heard about, but like really getting into. And then as soon as someone points it out, you're like, yeah, there are an awful lot of scenes where Cassie is naked and it's not in any way necessary to the plot of that scene. But she is a pretty girl with boobs, so they felt that was necessary.
And last season was really rough for Cassie.
Yeah, last season, I mean, it's I honestly really love that show, but there are challenges. The biggest one that I can't overcome is how Barbie Ferreira, for however you say her
Yeah.
name, but Barbie, who plays Kat, went from like an empowered sex worker boss to just like the most useless, mindless garbage character because the actress called out the director and was like, "You are problematic." And he was like, "Cool, then I'll make your character suck and then write you off." Like, what the hell is that?
I didn't know that that's
Allegedly, allegedly,
allegedly,
allegedly.
allegedly. We can't get sued behind the
from
paywall.
from what my sources tell me.
Right. From what TMZ tells me.
Exactly.
From what TMZ tells me, Rachel from Vanderpump Rules, formerly known as Raquel, just sits on fold out chairs outside of nail bars waiting for people to ask her questions.
You know, I don't know how long of a delay there'll be between us having this conversation and this conversation being in people's ears, but right now, today, maybe even as we speak, the Vanderpump cast is recording their reunion, and I'm like vibrating on a different frequency
I
from it.
know.
I'm so excited.
I've been wondering, like, every once in a while when I get chills, I'm like, is it the storm? Is it depression? Is it Andy sending me signals that this is going to be good?
It's Andy's thing. Andy tweeted just recently that he was watching the remaining episodes of the season on a flight on his way to go do the reunion, and that no one on the plane cared, and that was such a waste. And I was like, can you imagine being on a flight and seeing that you're sitting in a position where you can watch the show over Andy Cohen's shoulder months before anybody else gets to? I would have lost my mind.
It is a waste. And I couldn't imagine being on a plane where I could see Andy Cohen and not just asking him things like, hey, Andy, what's going on? How often do you have to hold Schwartz while he cries?
I guess that is a flaw in my fantasy in that I would never get to the stage where I was watching it over his shoulder because as soon as I saw him, I would act such a fool. I would be like kicked off the flight and arrested. So maybe that's why no one took advantage of it because all of the Bravo fans had already been escorted off the plane.
Like, I just imagine myself, like, watching it over his shoulder, and then all of a sudden, without any of us knowing, I'm holding his hand, like, oh, Andy.
Crying softly.
Because as you know, I know people now who know a lot of inside deets about Bravo, and I'm constantly like, what's the tea today? What do we got to talk about?
I pray that somehow one day your connections to that universe lead to me being in the same room as Andy Cohen, but I also know that I couldn't act right. There's no way I could act right, and I'm sure he's used to that given that his audience is a bunch of unhinged ladies and gays, that I think he's probably used to our bad behavior at this point, but, like, I would definitely embarrass myself on, like, a few levels, probably.
Honestly, when I do the teaser 10 minutes for this Patreon episode, I'm going to send it to Andy and I'm going to be like, hey, Andy,
He'd be like, "Another one? Great.
another
Put him
one.
in
Great.
the pile with the rest of the freaks that are stalking me." I can't even explain it because it's not like I'm, like, in love with him. I am aware of the fact that he is living a beautiful homosexual life that is not interested in me and my lady parts. I get that. I know. But it's like there's that whole thing that I'm not cool enough to pull off of, like, someone being so mother. It's like he is mother to all of the Bravo fans. We love him, but also he birthed us in a way. There's a respect and an obsession. I can't explain it. There's something unholy in my love for him.
Papa, Papa,
Papa, Papa.
I just want to sit on his like fur skin rug with like the baby in between us and we're just eating popcorn and talking about Bethany Frankel.
Yes. Yes, I just want him to tell me, like, all of the bitchiest details. Like, not anything huge and relevant, just, like, someone has, like, a really gross standing cocktail order that I don't know about or whatever. I just want the little crumbs he could throw my way.
Or like things that got petty during divorce hearings, like, well,
Oh,
so and so's husband insisted on having her old IUD, like something like that.
you know he knows everything. He's the keeper of secrets.
He's the keeper of secrets, except for he apparently, because I was also watching like something where he's like, I am also kind of on the outside of the Vanderpump Rules world, where it's like I get to talk to them but once a year.
Well, one of the things that's hilarious about the way that Andy has I don't know if it's how he consciously chose to market himself or if it's a result of him having like a very specific kind of presence and personality or what it is, but all of us, and myself included, know logically that Bravo is not a one man operation. And yet we all act like Andy is sitting there being like, this housewife is off this season. That one's in. And we're gonna do the reunion next Tuesday. All right, now what's next on the docket? Like he's definitely not making most of these decisions. That's insane. And yet we all believe that he is, no matter how many times he tells us otherwise.
Honestly, I believe his middle name is Bravo, Andy Bravo Cohen.
Makes sense to me.
Makes sense to me. It's like how because I'm a Chris Harrison apologist, you've yelled at me about it before. It's like how I was like, oh, Chris Harrison makes all of the choices for The Bachelor.
Of course he does.
He's the one who got rid of the picture shrine, which was the most helpful to me. I was
Yeah,
like,
because it's not like we can remember who these people are.
no. And it's
No.
not like I still think that they have the picture shrine. We just don't get to see the deliberation anymore.
I don't think that there's a point in the picture shrine anymore because The Bachelor doesn't even have to remember who's who because you know the producers are being like, you've picked one or two that you like, and then we're going to tell you what to do about the rest of them.
I heard that after the kerfuffle where one of the morons said a girl's name and the wrong girl walked forward and he realized he had done fucked up. I heard that they now like put little sticker names on the roses and that's why they're always twirling the roses.
That's interesting. I could be wrong. I'm not as strong of a Bachelor historian as I am a Bravo historian, but I believe that the person who fucked up and said the wrong name is the guy that is now the host in place of your King Harrison. I was gonna call him Dark Lord Harrison because I'm in the pit from Game of Roses, but not everyone would know what I was talking about.
That very bland white man that they make stand next to other very bland white men in a suit. And I'm like, who can even tell who they're dating and who's the host? I wouldn't know.
I hope this doesn't get me canceled by your listeners, but that show makes me racist against white people as a white person because I'm like, we all look the same and not in a good way. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Everyone on that show looks like the most generic, like Sears catalog white people. And I appreciate that they, in recent years, have tried to put in a handful of non-white people, like, great, love to see more of that. They always handle it poorly, but at least that's a step vaguely in the right direction. But it's also crazy that after however many seasons we're on now, they've had like, I don't know, 20 some seasons, that they never ever have someone that is a woman that weighs more than like 100 pounds. Ever. Not even like in the first round and then the bachelor just doesn't pick her. She doesn't even make it to the mansion. Ever.
Well, and did you see so Love is Blind starts back up tomorrow?
I did not realize that.
I know I might have to watch it before I make the 6-hour drive to my cousin's wedding and just be like, everyone hold on.
Yeah. I mean, are they dropping a bunch of episodes?
I think it'll just be like, oh, what if it is a bunch? Sometimes it's touch and go with Love is Blind. It's not like You, where they're like, here's 3 episodes, you peasant.
Netflix always keeps you guessing. Sometimes they give you 1 episode. Sometimes they give you 50 episodes. You just don't know. You don't know what's coming at you.
Sometimes they change what the picture looks like on you. So you're like, I can't even find my show. I can't read.
I will say Netflix, all of the streaming services have been like kind of a clusterfuck lately, but Netflix is undeniably elevating the art form of reality TV. What they've just done with Perfect Match, chef's kiss. I mean,
Speaking of white people who disappoint us, did you see that Nick Lachey is like going to jail or something allegedly for domestic abuse?
oh, I didn't see that one. I saw that he had to go to anger management because he like roughed up a paparazzi.
Oh, maybe that was it.
Because if it's domestic abuse, if he threw hands at Vanessa, I will cut them off of him. I will cut his hands off.
I think what I saw was anger management, Alcoholics Anonymous, and then like violence. And I immediately went, oh, he hits women because that's who I am as a person.
Well, if it helps, I believe the paparazzi he assaulted was a woman. So you weren't wrong.
I'm always right.
I did like a quick skim of an article the other day about it, and it was like he has to go to anger management because he and Vanessa were leaving a restaurant and there was a paparazzi. I think from the sounds of it wasn't even like interacting with him at all, but he recognized her and like got up in her face and slapped her phone out of her hand or something. So, I mean, on the one hand, it would be very annoying to have people following you around taking your picture all the time, but like you can't just go up and get in people's faces in parking lots. Just leave.
What if she was just standing there? What if, Nick Lachey, crazy I know, there was someone more famous than you in the restaurant?
Like your wife.
Like Vanessa.
I guess Vanessa is probably not more famous than him, but she is better than him. That's for sure.